Hey, I'm here with Kyle Shelton and we are learning about NuGen International. I'm really excited to share today all the things he's doing with seeds that are actually for our environment, our climate here in South Florida.
Hi everybody, my name's Kyle Shelton. I'm the owner-operator of NuGen International Vegetable Seed and Research. Basically, we're breeding and selecting things here in this region for us, and because of where we are and we have so many different pressures, if something survives here, it works most places, honestly.
That's really cool.
So it kind of will go the other direction, but if it works in a northern climate, chances of it working here aren't great. Selling seed is our original business. That's what we do, but we're just setting up now as a plant nursery of vegetables only, basically. So some fruits and then some flowers. The main flowers we focus on are like pollinators for bees and things like that, because we have to put those out here anyway to just make sure we have a healthy ecosystem. I would guess the philosophy is that by creating a plot where we're producing food that's completely chemical free, we're essentially creating a safe haven for these beneficial insects that can come in and they can live and have a healthy source of food for them, and which in turn provides all the pollination services that we need. A lot of people, I think, when they're thinking about farms, it's a lot of pesticides and chemical runoff and things like that, and that's the opposite of what we're trying to create. Our main project basically is working on developing sweet corn. It's a naturally insect-resistant sweet corn. That's one of our projects.
Cool.
We've also worked on some peppers, tomatoes, lettuces, herbs, and then, like I mentioned, some flowering pollinators for the bees. Actually get 2 generations, almost 3 every year, right? Because we can plant, harvest, dry, and then go right back in. That gives us 2, whereas most climates, certainly in this country, you've got 1 season,
one shot,
and that's it, right? And then it's winter time. Do have the winter, which comes and it helps kill off a lot of the disease pressures, a lot of the insect pressures, and that doesn't happen for us. We end up with such kind of high insect pressure, and that's one of the things that we're really looking at here. So we set up traps and we monitor our insect pressure and how many, what species we're collecting, things like that. So, and that kind of gives us an idea of, well, what's present in the field, what's feeding on our crops, and what are our crops actually expressing some sort of defense to.
Right.
My background really is, in sustainable agriculture, more or less. I ran an organic farm in college, and that kind of got me hooked on, farming in general. And then out of school, I ended up working as a plant breeder for a large independent seed company. And a couple years ago, I got a chance to spin off and start my own thing, and so that's what I'm doing. In the world of seeds in particular, it's generally dominated by a few large multinational corporations, Monsanto being one of them.
Yeah.
And what that's led to is not just monocropping, but we're talking about the limiting of actual genetic variety to a few very specific things, and they're good and they work. Not only is there room for competition, I think people want something different. They want options. Seed is a living thing, stored under ideal conditions. A lot of seed can last for years, which is good, but it still has a life. We have to steward not just the land, but also this diversity of genetics that exists within our food system. I think people are becoming more open-minded to the idea that, there are different, I can go to the store and I can get different, varieties of whether it's peppers or tomatoes, or they might have some weird lettuce that I've never seen before, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's good, but within each of those species, there's still a breadth of diversity. Peppers in particular is one of my favorite species. The genetic diversity there is fascinating, I think.
Just like us.
Yeah, just like us, is exactly
cool.
right. Nature is an amazing thing, and really, if you look at all the seed that's been saved by different people and universities and seed companies and breeders. There's so much out there that if you're trying to accomplish something in particular, whether it's breeding a new disease resistance or a new color or new whatever it is, if you find the right parental lines and you make the right crosses and you make the right selections, you can really accomplish some pretty fascinating things. We're constantly fighting this evolutionary battle with Mother Nature, where we're trying to produce the food. Well, the insects want to eat that too, and so we try to develop resistances. And the traditional method of us doing it would be you plant the monocrop, you spray it with chemicals, and eventually you're developing superbugs. That's what ends up happening, right? And so what we're trying to do is to let nature fight nature and battle it genetically instead of with chemical spray.
Yeah.
So
let the strongest survive.
Yeah, exactly. The first time we did some of this stuff, we're looking at, 80% do not make it at all.
Ugh.
And so that's
4 months of work.
Right, and you don't get much out of it, but really you do, because what made it now continues on, and so as you go, those numbers get better and better, and until you have a good viable product. I will certainly make hand pollinations on certain things, right? And that's where I am taking, say, with a paintbrush or with a bag, and I'm collecting pollen and I'm pollinating that, knowing full well that I'm trying to cross A with B, or I'm trying to just self-pollinate a plant, which is just continue to purify those genetics. So as it flowers, that's the time, right? That's when I'm working and pollinating. And after that, it produces the fruits. Usually we're eating the seed, right? That's what corn is.
Yeah.
So instead of doing that, I let that ear of corn sit there all the way through eating stage until it starts to desiccate and dry down, at which point we pick the ear, and now that gives us our next generation of seed. A lot of them are pretty well self-explanatory, that this one looks big and strong and nothing happened to it. Now, why is that? Well,
Nature.
let's see. Yeah, let's see, right? And so that's kind of how we do it.
That's awesome.
So here we are. Here's a handful of ears, I guess, that we've just pulled out of the field, and you can see how it's a little bit different than an ear of corn that you would find in the supermarket, right?
So the reason they're mixed like this is because you did the cross-pollination, right?
We're selecting for not just a good strong plant that survives, but I'm looking for nice long ears. We're looking for a good diameter, the colors, a big strong plant. You don't want the ear to be too low to the ground or too high up in the air, so you want it easy to pick, things like that. So that's all different characteristics that I'm going through the field and trying to make selections on. And this generally is what comes out, a whole bunch of different stuff. And we take the seed, we'll harvest this seed, we'll pull it off and plant it again and do it again, and until we all of a sudden have the best of the best. The ones that I just showed you in there, that is a bag full of ears of sweet corn only.
Okay.
Right? So what we've done over time is I've pulled these kernels of sweet corn out of ones that look like this.
Okay.
And eventually you clean it up and genetically purify it to the point that you're 100% uniform.
Wow.
Right? And so that's the product, right?
Okay.
In order to get there, it starts with something like this. I'd be happy to have you out and show you around.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.